Hey, good morning, eighth grade. I hope you're doing okay. This is the third time I've recorded this video and it's deleted on me so many times. I bet you missed my little crazy fits. Anyways, I miss you guys. It's weird not having you in my daily, everyday life. So I just want you to know I miss you. I'm praying for you guys. I hope you're staying healthy and that you're enjoying some rest in the midst of this craziness. I want to say up front, if you're confused or if you need help or if you don't get it, you can FaceTime me. My number is 630-664-8991. 630-664-8991. If you need help with anything, like you're just not getting it or you're not understanding. And I'll be happy to run through things with you. I am going to talk you through just 10.5 real quick and make sure you're understanding the concepts. I know you read the chapter, hopefully, and you wrote the notes at least. I know that, and I'm going to be sending a quiz today, so I want you to be able to do your best on your quiz today. And so I just wanted to record this video first to make sure that you kind of understand where we're coming from, okay? So just to remind you, work is any force that you exert over a distance, okay? And remember, we did that worksheet where we talked about how if you exert a force, it has to move a distance. If it doesn't move a distance, then no work is being done, because anything times zero is zero, okay? So machines help to change that for you. Remember, machines can't create or destroy energy, right? Just like nothing can, right? We can't create or destroy energy. But they can do some things that help make work easier, okay? And there's three things they do. You wrote these in your notes. They multiply the applied force, okay? So you put in a force and you get more force. They multiply the distance of that applied force, so they can go a farther distance to move something, or they can change the direction of something. So mechanical advantage is just this idea that, it's not an idea, but it's like it's the measure of how much help you're actually getting out of a machine. So in order to understand that, you have to understand that when it comes to work, there's two types of work that we are doing. There's the input work, the work I'm putting into the machine, and then there's the output work, the work I'm getting out of the machine. Now, ideal mechanical advantage says what I put in, I should be getting out, okay? And so that would be 100% efficiency, because I'm putting in 10 newtons and I'm getting out 10 newtons. But that doesn't always, we don't live in an ideal world. So we have what we call the actual mechanical advantage. And the actual mechanical advantage takes into account things like friction. So you remember that video where you had the inclined plane and a lever, and the difference in the amount of work that was being done between the two, the ideal mechanical advantage coming out of those, or the actual mechanical advantage? That was because with the inclined plane, there was that friction of moving the box up the ramp. That whole time the box is touching the ramp, there's friction involved. And so that's affecting how much work you're getting out of it. Whereas a lever, you pop something up, it's not having any friction to deal with, okay? So that's the difference between ideal and actual. Actual is what you're actually getting out of something, and ideal is under ideal circumstances where there's no friction, etc. Okay? So there are some application questions on 243. You can work through those. I tried in my other video, I tried to do it and then I put it up, but then it was all inverted and backwards. So until I figure out how to do that better, you guys can just, I guess I would have to, I don't know how I would do it. Anyways, I'll figure that out. But you can do it if you want some practice, and then you can send it to me and I'll send you the answers, okay? So there are 6 simple machines, not 10, 6. 6 simple machines. We're going to start with a lever. Remember we said there were, in the videos we started to watch before we went on break, she said that there were 2 families of simple machines, and that's true. There's the inclined plane, which we learned about, and the lever, which you learned a little bit about, okay? The other 4 simple machines fall under either of those 2 simple machines, okay? So we're going to start with the levers, okay? A lever is essentially a bar that pivots. So here's my Sharpie, it's my bar, okay? Now, I'm going to use my family from life, okay? Here they are. They're going to sit on my little lever here, okay? So this here is the input, and this here is the output. Really just one side is going to be input, one side is going to be output. So input is also what we call your effort. It's what you're putting into something. So when I push down on this, that's my effort, okay? This side of it is my output. That's what I'm getting out of it, or it's my resistance, okay? And the little blue family, life family, they are the fulcrum, okay? So there are 3 types of levers, and within those 3 types of levers, within the first class, there's 3 different things that they can do. So I'm going to work you through the different levers, and then we'll move on to the other 3 or the other simple machines and be done, okay? So this here, your fulcrum is in the middle. A first class lever, your fulcrum is always going to be in the middle. Now, your fulcrum is just simply where it pivots, okay? So where is it pivoting? It's pivoting right here on my blue guy, okay? So think of a first class lever like a seesaw, okay? Now I said there's 3 different ways first class levers can do work, okay? The first is by, if the fulcrum is right in the middle and the input is the exact distance as the output, then all you're doing is you're trading distance, like you're trading direction, okay? So when this guy goes down on the seesaw, the other guy goes up, and this guy goes down, the other guy goes up, and it just goes back and forth. So you're just trading distance, and sometimes that's helpful, right? If you're on a seesaw, that's very helpful, okay? But you can also change things up. So if I make my input longer than my output, so here my input's super long and my output's super short, and my place where I'm pivoting is right here, this will this will multiply your force. You'll get more force out of this. So think of a hammer, okay? When I am using a hammer to get a nail out of a piece of wood or my table here, okay? Look at this for a second and try and figure out what everything is. What's the input? What's the output? What's the fulcrum? Okay? Just going to pause it for a sec, let you think about it. You can pause the video if you want. Okay? This right here, it's pivoting right here. So that makes this the fulcrum. Okay? Now, the input is this big arm here. Okay? Because that's where I'm putting forth my effort. When I do that, I get output here. I can do that and pull my nail out. So input, fulcrum, output, or effort, fulcrum, resistance, okay? Well, when you do that, okay, I'm getting a lot of force coming from this area just by moving this, okay? So that is one type of, this is still a first class lever when you use it that way. We're going to talk about third class and use the hammer the other way in a minute. The opposite of that would be if you made your input short. So again, my black cap is still my input, okay? My fulcrum is here, and then I've got a long output. When I do that, I increase my speed, okay? Think of you sitting in a boat over here, and you're holding on to this, and this is your oar, okay? And as you move it, you are getting more speed out of this, which allows you to travel faster in your little boat, okay? All of those are first class levers because the fulcrum is always in the middle. But sometimes the fulcrum's not in the middle. Sometimes the fulcrum is at one of the two ends. Or at the end. Okay? So imagine your fulcrum's here. I'm going to maybe use a different pen so you don't get distracted by this, okay? With a second class lever, your fulcrum's at one end, your input's at the other, and your resistance or your output is in the middle. Think of a wheelbarrow, right? Here's your wheel. This is where the wheelbarrow pivots, right? This is where I'm putting forth my effort, so it's my input. It's allowing me to pull up the handlebars. And here is my resistance. This is my output. This is what I'm getting out. The work I'm getting out is I'm able to lift this load here up a little bit. The same is true with this stapler, okay? Here's a stapler. Here's the fulcrum where it pivots, okay? Here is your input. Okay, so I'm putting in, and my resistance is in this area right here. So this is another example of a second class lever. Third class lever, I'm going to come back to the hammer. This is where you have the fulcrum at one end, okay, the input at another, and then, fulcrum, resistance, fulcrum, output, and input. So fulcrum means that's where my hand is right now. This is where I'm putting forth my effort and I'm pivoting the hammer, okay? So this is my fulcrum. This is my input, okay? And then what I'm getting out of it is right here where I'm hammering. That's your resistance, okay? So this would be a third class lever. A fly swatter, another great example of a third class lever, okay? All right, so those are all the levers. And then we have the two things that fall under the levers are the wheel and axle and the pulley. And there's some, actually guys, there's some application questions throughout this chapter that you can check out. I'm going to fly through the rest of these because you really don't need to know too much about them other than just what they are and how they work. So I'm going to just sort of fly so that this video is not too long. Wheel and axle is similar to a circular lever, okay? And there's a picture on page 245 in your textbook to kind of explain that. The axis corresponds to the fulcrum, so there's a fulcrum. In your example, there's an input and output, etc. So it's going to be really helpful if you look at the picture and try and decipher it. If you have questions, let me know. There's also a lot of pictures of levers on page 244. So if you're not quite sure and you're not getting it, go ahead and take a look at those and think what's in the middle? Is it my fulcrum? Is it my resistance? My fulcrum, my input, or my output? Okay? And that will help you to figure out if it's a first class, second class, or third class. Okay? A pulley is, because it has a wheel, it's also a circular lever. It's essentially a wheel in which a rope or a cable passes. There's three types. There's a fixed, the movable, and the block and tackle. The fixed essentially doesn't move, so you're just reversing input without multiplying it. What you pull down is coming up, okay? There was a video in my PowerPoint. Watch it. It's really helpful. It's those same videos that we saw before, but it does a really good job with the pulley one explaining how the three different types work and how you increase your distance, increase your force in the end. A movable pulley has a pulley directly attached to the load. So in other words, you've got your load here, okay, and the pulley's right here. And so then when you're up here, you pull up and it pulls up your load, okay? And then a block and tackle is a combination of both, and block and tackles are the most effective because they can get the most, essentially work for the least amount of force, okay? Inclined plane we already talked about. It's a sloping surface that allows an object to be raised. It's essentially a ramp. It's really helpful because it gets you things into your car that are too heavy for you to carry otherwise. The only thing is you've got to put it over a greater distance. So you're putting in less force, but you're putting in more distance, okay? And then a wedge is two of those inclined planes put together. The purpose of it is to split something like a knife or an axe. All those things split things. And then a screw is an inclined plane wrapped around a rod. Okay, and your textbook will go into different examples of those, but really that's all you need to know at this point in your science career. Okay, so today I'm going to send you a quiz, okay, on 10.5. I'm going to do that as soon as I'm done this video. As soon as I get the video uploaded, because that's a different story. I'll be done the video in 2 minutes. Uploading's another thing. I'm going to put up the video, and then secondly, I'm going to send you the quiz. If you have not sent me your study guide yet, send me your study guide so I can look it over, and I'm going to send you back my answer key so that you've got the correct answers to study from. You're welcome. And then on tomorrow, we'll play Kahoot at 1 o'clock. I'll just get on, and I'll email your parents the code, or some of you, I have your emails. I'll email you the code. Get on, and then by 1:15, we'll start the game up. If you have questions, FaceTime me, call me, text me, do what you need to make sure you understand, okay? Try out some of the application questions in the textbook. Do the math in the science book. I'll send you an answer key for that. But anyways, I hope you guys are all healthy. I hope you're all well. I've got lots of grace here for you, so if you can't get it to me right away, don't worry. Get it to me in a little bit, okay? I love you all, and talk to you soon. Bye.